Welcome to the Antifragile podcast number 14, this time in American version. Today we have the pleasure of having a chat with Dr. Hayden, teacher for athletes and coaches, and researcher in the world of sport pedagogy and coaching ecology. Hayden is traveling the world interviewing coaches to discover their stories, their values, and how they created their knowledge. Hayden wants to help coaches find out who they really are as people so that they can then really be themselves with the athletes in front of them and love them. The amount of information in these scarce 40 minutes is impressive. Good listening. Benvenuti al 14° podcast Antifragile, questa volta in versione americana. Oggi abbiamo il piacere di fare una chiacchierata con il Dr. Hayden, insegnante per atleti e per coach e ricercatore nel mondo della pedagogia, dello sport e dell'ecologia dell'insegnamento. Hayden sta girando il mondo intervistando coach per scoprire le loro storie, i loro valori e come hanno creato le loro conoscenze. Hayden vuole aiutare gli allenatori a scoprire chi sono veramente come persone, in modo che possano poi essere realmente loro stessi con gli atleti che hanno davanti e amarli. La quantità di informazioni in questi 40 minuti scarsi è impressionante. Buon ascolto. Prima di iniziare il podcast, vogliamo parlarvi di Antifragile Online, il nostro servizio a distanza tramite applicazione. Avrai accesso ad un programma di allenamento specifico per le tue necessità a portata di mano ovunque tu sia. Utilizzerai i metodi di allenamento provati scientificamente che utilizziamo su noi stessi, sui nostri atleti e clienti dal vivo e di cui parliamo nei podcast. Ogni esercizio è fornito di video di esecuzione, serie, ripetizioni e tutte le informazioni utili per applicarlo al meglio. Scrivici podcast in DM per ottenere un 30% di sconto sul tuo primo programma.
Like every good American, you should start the YouTube video saying, YouTube, what's up?
YouTube, what's up?
YouTube, what's up? Okay, today we are here in Antifragile with an American professor.
Well, not yet.
PhD, right?
Yeah.
And we have Hayden here, and I'll let you go through a presentation. Let us know what you are doing right now,
Okay.
what's a little bit your background, and then we go into a full training session, right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, just finished PhD in sports performance. No, I'm just kidding. It's not sports performance. Human performance, sport pedagogy. So it's more of an interest in how to teach movement and sport. The focus mostly in that program was K through 12 physical education. I see this huge gap within kinesiological subdisciplines where we don't really talk to each other. And a lot of the people that are movement practitioners or sports coaches have no pedagogy. They have no history of pedagogy. They don't even understand their values, their philosophies really, and where they came from. My research was in value orientations, occupational socialization. So basically, how you arrive at your job, all the influences that led you to become strength conditioning coach, soccer coach, physical educator, your family, your friends, your culture, your environment. And then you usually go to college. He didn't.
I did not.
He did not go to college. He took a non-traditional route, but that's your professional socialization. So, what did you learn in your certifications? What did you learn at university? We usually find that's the weakest of the three layers. And then there's organizational socialization. For y'all, it's your job, right? Like here, but it's your job. And a lot of people are shaped by the roles that they take, right? In a strength conditioning job in college sport, what are they focused on? Tell me. What might they be focused on?
Training.
Bigger, faster, strong.
Okay.
Be good, faster.
How do they prove their worth to those who are higher up than them?
Coaches.
Yeah. Like how do they show that their work is impactful?
Getting
Results.
kids, bigger numbers.
Bigger
Results.
numbers, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if we look at that, like what kind of movements, what kind of like pedagogy, like how will they teach? How will they program? How will they periodize? Will they take risks? What constitutes good movement versus bad movement is going to shift in a strength conditioning college space versus coming here, right? We can take more risks in here. You can play a little bit more. You can explore. It's not good or bad necessarily. It's not what I'm after. And then with value orientations, it's along a spectrum of values. One end is more of this mastery. I focus on techniques and tactics. At the very opposite end of that, ecological integration. I'm interested in using movement and sport potentially for human and even global development. Some of y'all are aware of like NGOs that use sport for development, right? Maybe go into Africa and use soccer or basketball to make a better life for a kid. So I'm really interested in, I did all of that research with physical educators, and that was really good stuff, but we don't really know the stories of coaches. Yeah. We don't really talk about the qualitative stuff, the person behind the science, right? The person behind the data, and we need to know their stories, and we need to know their pedagogy. What you often find in anything is when your values don't align with your actions. What you say you want to be, what you say you want to bring out in somebody doesn't align with how you're actually doing it. You burn out, or you kind of lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you can't really teach. You can't really tap into their soul because you've already lost yours, right? And so we see this all the time where people become something and wear a mask that's not really theirs. And so, yeah, I'm interested in kind of guiding people, directing them towards who they are so they can bring out their own style.
Nice.
As long as you're teaching, cool. What you hate is to see somebody just not teaching at all, which we see that a lot too. And teaching doesn't look like screaming at people. Lower! Hip flexion! Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. There's a lot to the work, but I have several different sort of research designs I'm looking at, and I'm working slowly on something I'm tentatively calling movement and coaching ecology, with kind of these macro theories, a little bit broken down into meso kind of theories, and then the actual practice, like the art of teaching, the things that you can grab and do. It's like it's one thing to operate in theory, then it's like, all right, how do I actually use this information? But yes.
Nice. And do you think that this process to become a better teacher, okay, the process of becoming a better teacher, start from becoming a better person first, and knowing yourself better, knowing who you truly are, or is more about knowledge by itself, so knowing more about pedagogy?
There you go. I mean, you have to have pedagogical content knowledge.
Sure.
I have to have technical content knowledge, right? I have to have those things. I can't just like, no, I don't want to learn that. Like but yes, it's good to go learn it. It's better to go play than go confirm what you just did in the weight room or in a play environment. You go read it and you go, yeah, that makes sense. I intuitively understood that usually. But no, I mean, Chris Speed, KDOT, reached out to me 2 days ago, asked me he's like, if you were to give a beginner coach a book, what would it be? And I was like, well, it's not going to be anything science related, coaching related. He's like, I know, that's why I asked you. So yeah, know thyself, know love. Like, what does it mean to really love someone? Not control them, not take over their life for them. What does it mean to really love your athlete, your student? Like, care for them, see their soul, draw out the things that they didn't know they could do. That's a skill, and that takes time. You're not going to get it right away. So when you're a young coach, you're going to rely on content knowledge, your science, and your own level of play. And hopefully you have enough charisma to get people to kind of do stuff. And then over time, it develops into more of a craft. But if you're not devoted to the craft of becoming a wide-ranging individual as a coach, you're only going to be able to meet some people, not everyone. You know, some people you're never going to be able to support. It's just the way it is. Sometimes you're just not their coach, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can never force someone.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's like my mentor, one of my mentors is like, you can't ask to be someone's mentor. They have to allow you to be that, you know.
doing what you're doing, I think is something that start from a really going deep into yourself, going deeper in our job. So because it's like we have the first layer, that the thing that we are doing practically, but you are going deeper. So, and I think that this is something that takes time and experience. And you know, when you are younger, you don't even think about those things. You just want to do stuff.
They think about it. So the research, it'll say, like, they think about it. Because when you start, it's just more you have to prompt them a little bit.
Okay.
So if you start asking someone about their teaching philosophy, a lot of them, they're going to say, well, I want to be able to build trust. That's what a lot of young people say.
Okay.
You hear that a lot, right? I want to be able to build buy-in. They say that a lot, too. I want to be able to build a culture. I want people to be able to learn who they are. Like, they'll say all of those things, right?
Okay.
A lot of them, like, I want them to have self-confidence. Well, they'll say sometimes self-esteem. Well, we know some people have really high self-esteem and they're actually sociopaths, that they're not good people. Self-esteem isn't always indicative of being a good person. Sometimes you have false sense of self, right? But a lot of young people will say they have very specific value set that sits outside of gathering quantitative data points or getting results as a coach in a sport. It's about the human. They say those things. They just don't necessarily have all the life experiences, like you said, and the experience of working with hundreds and thousands of athletes or clients to know, like, what buttons to tap, to be able to draw from pop culture and philosophy and history and all these other little areas of interest, you know. Or sometimes you get these older clients and they're like, man, I got divorced like 2 years ago. I just want to look sexy and date again. And so, you know, it's like those little things too. But yeah, it does take time. And what my research was we had pre-service teachers in their first ever experience in the schools. And then interns that had done all of that, but they were getting ready to go teach. And then I had masters, 2 that had been teaching for 12 years. Very different schools, masters of their craft, very different people, very different pedagogical practices, similar philosophies in the way that they ultimately brought out the best in their students, in a sense, where like the things that they wanted to see and like the way that they loved matched. But yeah, their data shows, like, at first I tried to control everything. Everything was student second, coach first, command and practice style, do as I do, repetition perfect every single time. And then you realize I better take control away from myself, release the reins, and start to allow them to play. Now in physical education, there's a ton of different curriculum models and teaching styles to employ. I think we have stuff to learn in the sports performance space from physical education and can grab it and use it in spaces like this too.
Yeah, like this is the same kind of philosophy that Austin Jochum tried to utilize. Not try, he actually utilized it. And he, as you know, he says that we have been like to the end of the spectrum. We now the gym is almost everything about science, and now he's trying to get back to a little bit of physical education in order to like have a good amount of both.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, like, some of this stuff it's like immaterial. It's like almost metaphysical. Like, you don't know what's going to foster genius in an athlete. I mean, I can't teach Henry how to do what he does. He's a freak. He wants to be able to do it. It's just in him. It's innate. Like I told him before, like, he would still do it regardless of if it got any attention, if he knew anybody, you know. And he would just continue to attack the day because that's just who he is. Yeah, man, I mean, I rarely find that gathering a bunch of data points and putting them in an Excel spreadsheet is all that useful.
Yeah.
You know, I know that, but I've never had to prove my worth through gathering that kind of data, you know. Well, how do you know it's effective? Well, there's another question. It's like a lot of this stuff is reflective practice, and it is qualitative data. Do you care about what people say? Do you care about how they feel, how they show up, like what their emotions are like? You know, are you able to walk them through really challenging times, man? You know, that's a big part of it too.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as Austin goes, I think he's, you know, probably the most public figure that we can all point to say there's awesome sports performance in this like somewhat structured way. He's drawing from buckets, right? He knows what he's doing. He knows the science. You can see conjugate method and Bompa and, you know,
Yeah.
Verkhoshansky, like it's all in there.
Yeah.
And then there's this physical education, and it's not just this free-for-all. There's genuine thought behind how he's setting up those games and what kind of skills he hopes to draw out of that environment. And what he's done is he's created a culture of hardcore play. Not frivolous, like skipping around and, you know, like I'm for that too. Like frolicking through the forest. Like it's get in and compete, you know, which is a topic for another time. But, you know, all these different ways to look at movement. Is it neoliberal, competitive, super like get after it, there's money tied to it, or is it I do this because I want to play out in nature? You know, all that stuff.
Nice. Do you have some questions?
I want to ask you, for you, what do you think was the hardest part to learn and which came more natural? Or what are the things that you had to work more on? Was it like more on the love, learning how to love and all that stuff? More soulful aspect of coaching and pedagogy? Or was it more struggle learning all the technique side of thing, which...
I mean, the hardest part is learning.
Which came more
is
natural
knowing
for you?
yourself. That's the hardest
Was
part.
that the thing you had to work more on?
Yeah. I mean, every man, here's what I've found is kind of like around, I say this a good bit, like around 35, 36, I see men start to change. And they decide, I have been full of shit my entire life and I need to change. Or they don't. Because everybody's got bullshit. Everybody's full of like hubris, right? Like, I think my way is the best. And I talked about that with Joel Smith. It's like, I thought I was so open and understanding and empathic, vulnerable, all of these things. And I had those elements, but I was also an asshole. And I still can be sometimes, you know? Okay. But I had to get punished in life over and over again and get broken, you know, and be shown like truly my own shadow and how my shadow actually covered up my athletes, my partners, my family, you know, my relationships, right? So, yeah, the love was always there. I mean, I became a teacher because I love, you know, and I wanted to give back to communities that didn't have much. That's why I got into it.
When did you start working on that part of yourself? Was it always there? Because
I think I've always tried to work on it.
yeah, starting like knowing you this week, it feels like you were always kind of.
Oh, I've always been like that, but that came from my father.
Okay.
There's a constant like questioning. Dad was always in pursuit of knowledge, of thyself, of culture. He always taught me, like, there's a Bruce Springsteen song called Human Touch. Like, he taught me life through lyrics, and he's like, you know, you've got to have that human touch. You got to know sometimes when to, like, say, motherfucker at an athlete, and sometimes you got to know when to hold them. Like, really, right? And sometimes it's the exact same person in different moments, right? And sometimes it just happened, motherfucker, and then you hug it, you know? Yeah, but it's that human touch, that obsession with the human condition. Why do people do what they do? Not how. How do you do that? Why? It's why do they do that? How did they get to that moment? They don't need to think like me. They don't need to be like me. They don't need to move like me. They're just trying to understand why they do, why they act, why they be the way they be. That's always been there.
Yeah, and I think that's the most interesting thing we can talk about today, because every coach podcast or interview or whatever are always around how they're periodizing, how they're getting their athletes stronger. It's sports science podcast, but like now with you, we can talk about a side of coaching that you don't hear often.
Yeah.
And it's this work on self, work on how to love athletes and like how to really care about them and not the result they achieve so that you look better on your curriculum. And I think that's the most interesting thing. It's like, how do
Well, my thing, Henry, is like you're going to understand the principles of movement, right? I hope.
Yeah.
Like stress tissue.
Yeah, it's probably, sports science probably
What
not
does,
the hardest
what does
science
hip
out
do?
there.
Hip flexes, externally rotates, internal, external, extends. All right, train that.
Load it.
Okay, load that.
Recover.
Well, how much should I load it? I don't know. Heavy enough. I mean, there's certainly there's things that we have to do, and we get somebody that's really elite to take them to past a plateau. But for the most part, even with the most elite athletes you've ever been around, it's like releasing them into a form of play changes everything. I coached a guy that was a running back at the University of Alabama. He's a great athlete, he's kind of stuck. And we just kind of released him into a lot of different playful elements. I had him crawling like a snake down the stairs, right? Doing different types of sprints and reactions and, just a lot of kind of play-based little kind of 1v1 or him by himself type stuff just to draw out his body. And he broad jumped 1 foot 2 inches more about 6 weeks later. He was just locked up. It wasn't anything that I did specifically, I can point to. It was just hey, you're an amazing athlete. Let's just forget all of that super rigid shit you've been doing in a weight room environment. And he's just started taking off, man. I mean, we shaved 0.3 of a second off of his 40. And it was just it was always there. He just wasn't allowed to do it. And that's why I've kind of gotten to a place where I think most people, what I see in their body is what they're repressing instead of an expression. It's often a product of repression.
Like inhibition.
What are they not allowed? What have they been told was bad? What are they afraid to express? Because of their own fear. Maybe the culture influenced why they don't feel like they can do this in a public space. Austin's got his guys snaking right now, and people see you doing that in a weight room environment, they're like, what the fuck is that? Why are you doing that? When it's the most natural thing to feel into that. So that's kind of what I'm seeing a lot. And that's what I want to draw out of people. What are you holding on to? What is it? Is it pain that makes you feel that way? All these things.
I think the cool things about those things is that in the moment in which you understand how you truly are, why you love to train, why you love in general, the good things is that as soon as you understand those things, or you get maybe closer to understanding, this doesn't only apply to training, but apply to life.
There it is.
And your life can completely change.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole world out there. Yeah. It's not just the training environment, right? Yeah. And that's ultimate is you want, if I'm developing myself, I've had people write reviews about me, and my students, at UA would say it's I've seen it many times. They would say, it's like Hayden is learning about himself while we're learning about ourselves, and we feel like we're in it together. Like he's just a part of like this whole process with us instead of, and that's how I had to learn. I taught in the inner cities. I was a history teacher. It was structured because it was supposed to be. A couple years in, I was like, this isn't working. Like they're not seeing themselves in it. So I started creating more of a Socratic circle. And I literally sat my students in a circle, and I sat in a desk amongst them. And I started teaching more thematically instead of chapter by chapter. And you start asking them about, they're basically, some of them are kind of born into a semblance of a war zone. So you're talking about war, but you're talking about the battles that they're fighting too. And so it often became about life skills instead of history. And that's where some of it emerged, and and that I got to coach sport for such a long time and strength conditioning when I was young, and started seeing that I could create family and more beautiful things through movement, and I was more obsessed with movement than I was with history. Which is cool. It's
Makes
fun.
sense.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It's good to have both, though.
Oh yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
We've become so specialized in our things.
I'm so grateful I can explore, that's why I write.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I'm able to see some of the connections that I can see, because history is just about seeing all these networks of why, how did we get to that point? And I always told my students, I was like, history is just the study of how humans typically respond to adversity. Just terrible things happen. How do they move through it? Obviously, it's often written by the victors and the super wealthy, but we do have some stories, So I think that, great coaching and teaching is born from storytelling. That's ultimately what we are. And that's why social media is killing us. It's not very good stories. We want a 2-second clip.
Yeah.
It's a brain rot, the dopamine drip.
It's sharing what people want to see rather than our truth.
Well, you can either, and that's what I'm talking about it right now. I'm trying to write about it. But in school teaching, they call it the institutional press. You get into your organization, your school, and some people will strategically comply with the status quo. I have to write these perfect lesson plans. I got to have these perfect rubrics. It's got to be structured. We're going to teach this standardized test. Some people will fence sit on the fence. I don't know. Maybe I should just wait this out until I can find a better job. You see that a lot, right? Some people will strategically redefine. So they'll go, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I'm going to rebel against that. And I'm going to carve out my own craft, even though they tell me I can't, kind of thing, right? And a lot of people, they get in the profession and they wash out all of the good practices they learned because there's so much pressure on them to comply and to be what they're told they have to be. And so, again, lose sense of self, burn out. How many coaches do we know burn out from the profession, end up getting divorced, right? You end up breaking, It's also because low pay. They're advertising jobs in the States right now for $42,000 a year. I don't need to tell y'all how low that is, but you take home about $26,000. That's not a livable income, so that's happening too. But yeah, so I'm thinking about this institutional press. Now I'm thinking about this algorithmic press. So you're watching really good coaches right now, people we have respect for. We won't say their names. Using artificial intelligence to write every caption, using artificial intelligence to sound really smart in their quote-unquote storytelling. It's pretty easy to tell. It's not just this, it's that. it's not just this, it's that. You hear it constantly, that phrasing, the negative followed by the positive. It's not only, it's this too. And we see that all the time. Or chasing that 1 to 2 second clip that's going to draw people in, whether it's controversial or salacious and sexy and all that stuff, right? I value depth. So I stopped following a lot of people because I want to hear the story behind the fucking thing. I want to know the thing underneath the thing. And if you can't tell me the thing underneath the thing, I'm not interested anymore. You know.
Wow. Great perspective on things.
And
We need more. Need more of this way of seeing things and experiencing them.
I think we have it. I think a lot of people are craving it.
Yeah,
I think
they are
I
craving
think
it, but I
there
feel
is
like they're lost.
I think there is a. I like to see things a little bit more positive than a lot of people are seeing it right now because I've spent a lot of my life being a cynic. It's one thing to see the reality, like depressed people, if you've ever read A First-Rate Madness, like people that have like manic or depression, like they end up becoming really good leaders during bad times. MLK, Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln. You can point to these leaders where it seems like, you know, a depressed person sees more of the realities of it all. Well, there's a lot of cynicism connected to that. So you kind of see like the darker stuff. But I see a renaissance, man. I think we might be stepping into, you know, young people are fighting back against the digital divide a little bit. Some have completely fallen in, but some are outright rejecting it. You know, they're becoming what's called a Luddite. They're like outright refusing technology, you know, and a lot of people I think we've hit this critical mass of AI slop, and people are getting sick of that shit. And they want something real. We're all bored with our movies. We're bored with our shows. There's not real art. People are making music for a fucking algorithm.
All the books as well, like all the
it's
self-helping books. Like
And all the self-help book, like how many more self-help books can you read, bro? The most interesting book most coaches have read is Range by David Epstein. Go one more. Keep going. Keep reading. Keep writing. And people criticize like a journaling practice. Write. You really want to know who the fuck you are? Write. I have no like sympathy for somebody that refuses to reflect in that way. Like, you want to know more about yourself? You better write yourself into existence. And it may be the exact same pain every single day, because sometimes it is for me. I am torn up about certain things I grieve. It shows up in my pages all the time. That doesn't mean I'm not healing or understanding myself. It's just still there. You know? It's not just about reflecting on your coaching practice. Like, reflect on your life. And then write about the beautiful things that you see. You know? I think what that's done for me is it helps me pay attention to the little things, the granular, and it helps me find beauty in the very small moments of life. And without writing and dropping in deep, everything is just a blur. You want to move through life as a blur?
no, thank you.
Nah.
do you reread your
Yeah.
Okay.
Always.
Always?
Always. Yeah. As far as the writing, my own writing, sometimes I don't go back to some things. There's some dark shit I don't want to see. But there's a lot of things I'll like touch on and I want to. That's whenever you see me post an essay, like all of this longer form stuff.
Carousels.
That's been like jumbled thoughts that I eventually put into
Put together.
something that makes sense. But obviously there's some people that are prolific right now because they're using AI to do everything. Like I brain dump and I crash out. Like I just legit, I talked to my somatic therapist about it yesterday because she's an artist. I was like, it's like I go hard and everything comes out and then I'm like depressed for like 3 days and I have to like build it back and like get back interested in training, writing, all of it.
I never done it. I don't do it, but hearing you talking about it feels like it's something I must start doing. What suggestion or tips or
Well,
whatever
I recommended
would you give to someone that
to K-Dot the book, The Artist's Way. There's some spiritual, performative stuff. I get all of that. Like, you know, almost like a little bit maybe religious and kind of white girl spirituality. But what it does is it asks you to step out of your comfort zone a little bit. It asks you to tap into your inner artist. It commands that you write 3 pages a day, every single day in your morning pages, which I was already doing all that stuff. But it also gave me like interesting prompts. It got me going and exploring my city a little bit differently. It got me taking photos like slightly differently and like hanging on to things like that. And then continuing to pay attention to, you know, Hemingway talked about, they think he said this, they're not exactly sure, but you basically need to be able to walk into a room and be able to tell the story of that space. Like, who were these people? And my dad was really good at that. Like, he would see somebody and he'd like make up an entire story about their life, you know? Like, he was this cool, he would tell me stories about animals he would see on the road. Like these elaborate stories about a hawk flying, then it would ultimately end with him grabbing my leg. But it was like really cool stories, you know? But yeah, I think the artist's way helps people dig in and get through that initial fear of everyone's an artist. Everyone has something in them that needs to be drawn out. My art is through essays and has started to evolve into a couple poems. I didn't know they were coming, they just came. And through my writing, like I find that when I'm bouncing, it feels like this. When I know it's good. When I know that when you see anything I've written or said, it's because I wrote it and it felt like that. It felt like a dance. Like I felt the music in me. It's just a pop. It's a very rhythmic thing. And you catch it every now and again. That's what you're searching for, though. Okay. It's like most of it sucks. Most of it is outright shit. Some of it's just so selfish. It's all about you, you know. But yeah, that's one.
That's good. What do we do?
Training.
Yep.
What's the focus of today's session?
Yeah, so today
Hayden's gonna guide us.
The way I kind of build my programming now is I have the big buckets of I'm gonna hit like a max intent day. I don't really go after like it's similar, if you want to say it, to the conjugate like Louis. But Austin said it before, right? It's like what Louis really done is he's presented a training model that is essentially a constraints-led approach, right? So I'll spend 2 to 3 weeks in a mini block with kind of the big buckets. A max intent day with my lower body, where I just want to be able to put a tremendous amount of force through the floor. That's the goal. There's usually going to be some type of more athletic, flowing day. Those are the 2 days that I'm focused on as far as there's a structure there. I'm going to follow that structure. I might change the main lift out slightly just to achieve a slightly different stimulus. I have been battling patellar tendinopathy for a bit. It kind of comes and goes. Travel is obviously not good for it. And I have screwed up my left shoulder pretty bad doing old-time strongman stuff. I always leave room for an exploratory day. And that usually is shoulder focused and or hip focused. And so today is kind of that hip. These 2 ball and socket joints, so capable of extreme violence, but because they're capable of extreme violence, they take a beating. And if you train as hard as we do, kind of got to care for that stuff. Also finding that so many people, their adductors are just remarkably weak. And I've just been playing with a lot of different strategies to bring that out. 'Cause I'm tired of watching people collapse. And so we'll just be playing with a lot of different ISOs and then little movements, and then we'll see where it goes. So today is not exactly a strict process, but we'll end up somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's go.
Yep.
Let's start.